Welcome to I Love Cal City. I'm James Robinson, and we're here for an interview for councilman position. Can you introduce yourself and tell us how you came to be a resident of California City and why you decided to stay?
Sure. Jim Creighton, incumbent council member. I came to California City because of my being relocated from Korea to Edwards Air Force Base in 1992. I retired from the military in 2000 and decided to stay. Originally, I come from a relatively cold climate, and the desert just suits me better.
So what makes you decide to rerun for office?
Initially in 2020, I was frustrated by the way that council was handling issues for the city. As I consider myself to be a part of the problems the city has faced over the last 3 years, I want to try to help the city move forward and recover from past issues.
Have you held public office before? Well, obviously you have.
Yeah, after not just being an incumbent, I was a planning commissioner and planning chair for the 5 years prior to running for council in 2020.
How was it different from what you expected?
When you first get on council and you attend your first closed session, your eyes are generally opened wider than you normally would think. There are issues facing the city that at the current times can't be divulged to the citizens, and the citizens they're speculating on what the issues might be, but they don't have all the facts. And so going into closed session for the first time is quite an eye-opener. From there, you learn what issues are facing staff, and what council is working with staff to get accomplished.
So what makes you qualified for this position?
I truly don't feel that there are qualifications for the position, especially at the local level. It basically, in my opinion, you just have to want to help. With me being on council now, I feel that I've taken the point of view where I listen and look at all aspects of an issue before making a decision. I also try to incorporate, when possible, the public input.
So in your opinion, what is the proper role of city government?
Initially, the role of city government is to hire 2 employees. One is the city manager, the other one is the city attorney. We also approve annual budgets. And another function of the city council is to act on recommendations from the various committees, commissions, and advisory boards. In my opinion, the council should also be more involved in meetings to try and bring more businesses into the city.
As a representative of the people, what methods will you use to stay in touch with the mood, interests, concerns, and desires of the public?
The people that know me know that I'm not an overly social person. I don't go out soliciting comments from the constituents. I am, however, available at all times to take their concerns, questions, and comments through email, phone, and text.
Many council persons see their primary role as one of oversight and guardians of the public's finances. As a council person, what can you do to improve the quality of life in California City that does not involve the city budget?
Anything that the council does is going to involve the budget. And here's an example. Hypothetically, say we have a huge section of water line that just totally failed, and that wasn't scheduled to replace for another 2 fiscal years down the road. Now, staff has to figure out what to do. They have several options. They will need to shift priorities and either add this to their current list of projects or shift other projects further down the schedule. Either way, the budget's impacted, ultimately the quality of life on individuals too. If they're out in water, if their water line is down for any length of time, you have boil notice, and that's hard on itself, or hard in itself.
Which issue or issues do you consider the greatest facing California City, and how will your service as council person address them?
Right now, the biggest issue facing the city, in my opinion, is the loss of the special revenue. That revenue helps sustain the city. As one candidate running for office has said, the city needs a special revenue tax to run in perpetuity. And I do agree with that. Currently, and in the near future, there just isn't enough business tax or property tax to replace the special tax revenue. A long-term special tax will provide the stability to allow focus on other areas.
Persons running for office state what they will do. This wish list is generally what we all want. Wanting something and having a practical, workable plan to accomplish it are 2 different things. How will you accomplish the things we all want when others have failed at the same task in the past? What makes your plan different?
Well, first, I've never made a promise to the citizens of the city. I've only said that I would help and I would work as much as possible to get whatever needs to be done. I've always been very practical in that regard. So if reelected, I will still only be one vote out of 5. People who have watched council meetings over the past 2 years have seen that my vote has generally been in the minority. What I hope to help affect is on my platform at Jim Creighton for Council. It's on Facebook.
So during every election cycle, candidates promise to bring in new business to increase our tax base, yet no one has succeeded. Cannabis came, but the large promised revenues did not follow. How will you bring business to California City?
As a current member of council, I've had quite a few meetings with developers and other businesses wanting to come here and do business. Although none have actually showed up as of yet, but it does take time to go through the processes, and some of them are. And hopefully when the conditions are right, and we have conditions that we have to change in the city, some will start to make Cal City a place for their business.
California City has gone through 10 city managers, interim or acting city managers, in the last 7 years. We have experienced a similar turnover in department heads. What will you do to stabilize the city and maintain some continuity?
Okay, the current council is actively working to interview and hopefully hire a permanent city manager. I'm hopeful that this can be accomplished before the next council is seated. As to the department heads, they are the purview of the city manager to hire. Keep in mind that we will need to be competitive in order to recruit qualified personnel. Competitive is generally going to mean more money. In leadership positions, we are definitely behind other cities in attracting quality people, mainly because of salaries and, let's just call it, an atmosphere within the city.
California City is in a financial crisis. We've not had a real budget in more than 2 years. We do not have liability insurance, placing the city at risk. We are behind on our bills. What can you do as a council member to create financial stability and put us in a sustainable track going forward?
Okay. First of all, I'm not aware that Cal City is behind in their bills. I have not heard that as a council member, so I cannot believe that statement is true. Second, one of my platform items is to help the city avoid bankruptcy if at all possible. So the question to be asked after that would be, how do we do that? Well, we as a city do not have the financial experts in the city on staff to do that. So we are going to have to rely on outside experts. Quite likely, we're going to have to make some really, really dramatic changes to the makeup of city staff. I don't know for certain, but it's quite possible.
With current staff cutbacks, California City will need to be creative in meeting the needs of our community. What will you do to fill the gap?
Many think that volunteerism will help. But to be clear, volunteers are simply that, volunteers. They do not punch a clock. So they can just get up and stop helping at any time they feel. To a degree, they will help. They'll help stop some, but you have some specialized skills that you still have to retain, or items that you just can't pull somebody off the street and say, I want you to volunteer to do this type of work. It's dangerous, and it could get the city in more trouble than help. So to that end, the only answer I can really come up with is that some services are going to need to be reduced or eliminated temporarily by what I'm trying to say, and or employees take a dramatic reduction in pay.
The Measure C special parcel tax came to an end. The cannabis industry taxes never materialized in any significant way. A new special tax has failed twice. What is your plan to maintain a functioning city with even fewer funds?
On July 27th, I put forth 3 potential measures for taxes. The first one was an increase to the transient occupancy tax, hotel tax, whatever you want to call it, short-term rental tax. Then it was 1% increase in sales tax and a backup plan for the special tax. The council approved the 1% sales tax, but voted down the other 2. I can, if you like, describe for the viewers what all 3 would have looked like in terms of who they affect and the potential revenues. If you like, I can go through them now.
I think it'd be beneficial.
Okay, on the take the transient occupancy tax first. Transient occupancy tax or hotel tax is just that. It affects only those people utilizing the hotel or short-term rentals, VRBO, stuff like that, which I'm not sure we have any of those here in town anyway. Since 2006, our TOT tax has been 6%. I stated, and I did some research, Kern County on average is 9.3%, with many cities being at 12% on the TOT tax. I wanted to raise the tax by 4% to 10%. Typically, we get about $86,000 a year in TOT tax. So raising it 40% would give us maybe roughly another $35,000. It would put us over the $100,000 mark. So that's more money in the general fund. That was voted down because of 2%. The 1% sales tax will affect everybody in the city and everybody that visits the city. It's adding 1 cent on every dollar spent in the city. Our current sales tax in Cal City is 7.25%. We are, along with 2 other cities in Kern County, the lowest at 7.25. Almost every other city is 8.25, with the exception of Ridgecrest, which is 9.25. LA County and others are at 10 plus. The revenue that is projected for a 1% sales tax is $700,000 a year. That, along with $100,000 in the TOT tax, that's putting you close to the $1 million mark. And like I said, that affects everybody in the city and everybody that comes to the city and purchases literally anything. A penny on the dollar is not a lot to spend. The special parcel tax that I put forward was to be utilized as a backup plan should, and we all know that it already did, but should the special tax that was on the July 30 ballot fail. My proposal was $150 per parcel, and that gross amount to be potentially generated would have been $7.5 plus $1 million. However, and everybody uses pretty much a 25% delinquency rate, that figure is more likely to be $5.67 million. I had projected the funds to be divided 55% to the police and 45% to fire. I also proposed that that tax be in effect for 6 years with no reduction. However, there would have been a caveat in the wording that would have allowed council to decrease that amount if we had sufficient other increases in taxes across the board that would have made up that difference. Now, because that second tax failed and there is nothing for the November ballot, unless council or unless the city pays for another special election, we can't do anything until March of 2026. That's the next time we can put anything on a ballot because that's the next primary election. So there it is in a nutshell.
Well, that leads into the next question. Would you support a new parcel tax?
Absolutely. Well, like I said, I had already placed it in front of council, but it was voted down.
So what you just described would be your new parcel tax?
Actually, I've gotten feedback from some citizens that would like it to go to 200. And some are willing to pay even more than that, but we won't go there. But it's difficult for the citizens to act on a tax that's going to run in perpetuity on a special parcel tax, especially since a lot of our parcel owners live outside the city, state, or country.
It says below are some of the common concerns, and I'd like you to address each one, how you see you would affect or not affect the issues here. The first one is available health care.
Former Mayor O'Laughlin and former council member Macedonio have both worked extremely hard in order to get an increase to the healthcare system in Cal City. Macedonio had brought forth Advent Health and some other items on the North Loop side. O'Laughlin had worked tirelessly to get the urgent care clinic up and running. We do have increased access to medical services in Cal City. Is it great? No. But is it sufficient? Could be. But if we don't use it, they're going to close shop. And speaking specifically for the urgent care, if they don't get a lot more people going in there, they are probably going to have to close their doors. And they put a lot of money into rehabbing that facility. To caveat on that, the city had an opportunity to utilize their services, some of their services, not all, but they decided not to. It would have saved time and vehicle usage by using them here as opposed to driving all the way to Bakersfield. So a cost savings there too for the city, but they chose not to. Is it still available to them? I don't know.
How about local businesses? Our availability for common stores and places of entertainment is limited, and many of the stores that come in here don't last.
I agree. And I've said this to others before, and the statistics are against startup businesses anyway. More than 50% fail within the first 6 months. But my thought process is this: if you have a product or a service that the people want after you do your research on this, they're going to continue to shop there. But if you don't, they're not likely to enter your doors. So the pivoting process is what generally works for some, not all, but if you can pivot to a new direction without a whole lot of heartache or financial investment, it's usually beneficial for you, in my opinion.
How about larger industries for local employment and supporting our tax base?
Larger industries would indeed increase our tax base. And hopefully, if they were here and were viable and active, paying their taxes, we could get off of some of the special taxes. We could put more money into our public safety and general fund and roads and streets. But in order for them to come here, we need to improve/grow our infrastructure and utilities. Otherwise, there's just no benefit to them coming.
How about our continuing ruptures of our water system mains?
Just came from a meeting to allow Public Works to do 4 hot taps on 2 mains. When I first got on council in 2021, I had asked Public Works to bring to council their top 10 water line replacement projects. They did that, and it totaled out after engineering estimates at about $8.5 million. Council authorized all that money to get started on that. Now, some of it was going to be a mix of some in-house, because they did have sufficient staff at the time, and the rest was going to be contracted out. Somehow, only a very small handful of projects got done, totaling somewhere in the neighborhood of $3.5 million, and we got about 3.5 miles of water line replaced. But that took several years because of engineering, and you have to put items out to bid. But I just never found out why the other projects weren't included when we had already authorized that money. Bottom line is, within the water fund, there is money for replacement. They might have to scale back now because money's being spent in other places as far as the water systems go. To caveat on all of that, some staff and residents really want this work to be done in-house. My opinion, and I've been in facilities maintenance, facilities management, public works type area my entire adult life, it's just not feasible with the staff we have now. I'm not saying they're not talented enough. I'm saying we don't have enough of them to do the projects and maintain what we have. So contracting, in my opinion, is the way to go. Yes, it costs more money, but it can actually get done quicker.
How about the generally poor appearance of our city?
Some blame staff, and you can blame staff all you want, but I don't think it's all staff's issues. In town and outside of town, we have people that simply don't care how the town looks. They'll stop anywhere and drop a load off into what they consider just the desert. Illegal dumping is running rampant in this town, hard to catch up to. It's hard to curb. Even though Kern County gives us an annual grant to do cleanups, we just can't keep up. It's just not enough money to purchase the vehicles and hire the people to do it. There just isn't enough money there. I'm not saying they're not doing it. I'm just saying there's just not enough time for them to do it. They just can't keep up with all of the sites that are out there.
How about our deteriorating streets and potholes?
This is a big pet peeve of mine. Poor road maintenance has plagued this city for years. For over 6 fiscal years, audits were not done. Without audits, the city cannot draw down the millions of dollars currently sitting at KernCog waiting to be sent. The funds at KernCog do 2 things. First, they reimburse the city for the dial-a-ride service that the city is now funding because they haven't drawn down those funds. So that money there goes back to, it reimburses the city for all they've spent on dial-a-ride, fuel, employment, maintenance on the vehicles, training for the drivers, and also dispatchers. The second thing they do is provide money for street repairs. Now, in actuality, it's for anything related to transportation. It could be anywhere from a bike rack to a bus stop to actual vehicles. That as long as it's for public transportation, it can be used, including the streets. Now, will a few $1 million really help the streets? At this point in time, no. But as we continue on, complete the audits, draw down the money at $1 million plus a year, we can actually do more. It's a continual effort. We won't get there overnight. It took decades to get where we're at. It's going to take the same to get back.
How about laws and unfunded mandates from Sacramento which work to the detriment of our city?
In some cases, there's not really a lot that Cal City can do on the unfunded mandates that come down. A lot of these have to do with, well, some in the past have had to do with public safety. Sacramento just doesn't care, in my opinion. They just don't care what they send down. For the housing issues, take a look quickly at SB 9, which allowed anybody wanting to build homes on a lot, single family residence on a single lot. Now you don't have to worry about that, and you can put 2 or 3 houses, whatever will fit, and the city has to, by law, approve them. Public Works Director has researched this and found out that since we are a rural city, we don't have to follow that rule. Plus for us. But what Sacramento doesn't realize is that as rural cities do not have the same issues as metropolitan cities, okay? LA County or LA City, you have to grow up. You have no room to grow out. We're just the worst. We're just the reverse. We don't have to grow up. We have plenty of room to spread out. Look at some of the infill that's happening now with some of the homes being built. I welcome infill wholeheartedly, and as one council member states, more rooftops, more taxes.
So here's a different question. How can the public help you and the city be successful?
In my almost 4 years on council, we've had many citizens come up and criticize council. And that's their prerogative to do. And they're trying to get a point across, and I can understand that. But just pointing out issues is really not, it doesn't do anything to help solve anything. Some do come with a solution, but then if you challenge them a little bit, they get highly defensive and don't want to talk about it anymore because they think that their way is the only way and the right way. Well, there's usually multiple ways to solve an issue. In my opinion, if we could come together, and more town halls would, if you had a town hall for a specific topic periodically, and every time the topic would change, I think that if everybody came with a calm, level head and not get defensive if their ideas are challenged, we could come to some solutions. Ultimately, the city's going to benefit as a result, because if the public feels like they're involved in solving the issue, it's going to make them work a little harder to get that point. But some people feel that coming to council is not all-knowing and cannot fix every single problem. We need the help of experts. We need the help of the citizens. We need the help of staff, because sometimes staff has an understanding of what can and can't be done more so than council does.
Describe the changes and improvements that we can expect to see at the end of your term if elected.
Well, first, I have to be reelected. So if I am reelected, I do hope that there will be some significant changes over the next 4 years. I cannot honestly speculate what those would look like. There are many things I'd like to see. And this, like I said before, I'm 1 vote of 5. I'd like to see the infrastructure, sewer, water, electricity improve tremendously. And then the other thing that I want to throw out there is the fact that in some cases, it takes a simple majority vote in order to get something passed, which is 3 out of the 5. On rare occasions, we have to have what's called a supermajority, which is 4 out of 5. One of the council members happens to be absent, and that means all 4 members have to vote in the affirmative in order for something to pass with a supermajority. The public is in many cases, very well informed about what they want to see and what they want to do. And we as council need to listen more to them and what they want. Now, are we always going to be on the same side as what they're asking about? No. Are we all going to vote the way they want us to vote? Not always, no. But like I said earlier on, I try to ensure that my vote is for the best benefit of the city. And I'll leave it at that.
Councilman, I want to thank you for the interview.
Thank you.
One last chance. Tell the people why they should vote for you.
I've been an elected official, first appointed official for 5 years, elected official for the past 4. I honestly feel that I have the best interest of the city in my mind and my heart, and I try to strive for that every time I cast a vote. You can go back and look at my voting history, and in some of the minutes, you'll see that I believe that I use reason behind what I say and how I vote. I would encourage you to help me stay on for another 4 years. So please cast your ballot. I don't know where I fall in the listing, but there's 8 of us, and you get to select 2. So please vote for me.
We need to get out there and vote. Every vote counts. See you on November 5th.
Or cast your ballot earlier.
Yes.